Hey, how you guys doing? This is William Myers, Mantis Outdoors, in the Chris Tanner studio, aka his kitchen. So today we're going to be doing a video about freehand sharpening. The reason why I'm doing this video is because I see a trend in this genre that kind of leans towards mechanical sharpeners and carbide bit sharpeners, little handheld sharpeners and things like that. And I don't see a lot, not a very lot at all, about like Japanese water stones, Arkansas stones, oil stones. I don't see a lot done on that subject, and it's one of the things that I have several different reasons why I prefer that type of sharpening over, say, like just walking up to a kin onion and zip 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 and that's it. There's nothing wrong with that. In my opinion, I'll just go ahead and go through it. Some of those sharpeners that you get, like I said, there's nothing wrong with work sharps or anything like that. Especially in my opinion, I've used Chris's a ton. When it comes to like something that's really badly damaged, like an axe. Long story short, an axe of mine came up horribly damaged, and my wife actually did it. Long story short. Anyway, it would have taken me a very long time to take a file to that, and get that back to where it needed to be. It was like a serrated edge at one point. Came here, work sharp, zip, 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 it was done. Didn't even take maybe a minute, maybe. And the steel, I hear people talk about, well, those things will heat the steel up and it'll do this. No, you're not getting that hot. You're not getting red hot. You're not getting 600 degrees or 800 degrees. Anyways, I'm getting off subject. Those sharpeners are good. I kind of, when people give me questions about sharpening, I do tend to try to steer beginners away from like work sharps and things like that. One, because it's a fast moving belt. Don't get me wrong, it's not like they're for professionals, but it's a fast moving belt. Things are going quickly, and I see more often than not, probably about 90% of the people that I would call beginners that jump on like something like that, they're gonna knock the tip right off of their blade, round it over, things like that, and it happens super quick. Other things can happen. You can reprofile your edge and not even know it. You can dig into your secondary edge and not even know it. I definitely try to steer beginners, especially, away from like something like the kin onion or something like that. In my opinion, freehand sharpening, you're going to get more of a detailed edge, more of a satisfying edge, in my opinion. And that kind of leads me into my next point. This is something. Not only do I feel that this is a better way of sharpening a blade, it's more of a personal way of sharpening a blade too. This is not just something that I do just to sharpen a blade. This is like almost like a hobby, in my opinion, for me, almost like meditation in a way. And there's a lot of people that share my my view as that for that as well. I can't speak. First of all, I'd like to just definitely get this out of the way. With freehand sharpening, with like Japanese water stones and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, there are people out there that are considered masters, just absolute with anything in this craft. And there's people out there that are absolutely just considered masters. I am not Murray Carter. I'm not so-and-so and so-and-so. I'm not a master. I don't claim to be a master at anything, even bushcraft, survival, all that stuff. I'm not an expert. I'm not a master. I'm just a guy that's been doing it for a while, and I hope knows what he's doing. But it's the same thing that it is with freehand sharpening. I've been doing it for a very long time. It's one of my passions, to be honest with you. I'm known for wild edibles and medicinal plants, things like that. That's a passion to me. Same thing with freehand sharpening. It's a passion. It's a meditation. It's a get right for me. Stressful days, things like that. I'm glad to see a dull knife at that point, because I can go sit down, get on some stones, sharpen some blades up, switch a couple stones here and there, get the mirror polish. That's just very satisfying to me. So that's one more reason why freehand sharpening, in my opinion, is something that I definitely tell people that it's worth getting into. And for a lot of people talk about price differencing too. These are not cheap in a way, in my opinion. Let's just say like the work sharp a work sharp. I keep coming back to that because I hear that a lot. Like, it's one of the most famous things in sharpening right now is just grab a work sharp and all your worries are taken care of, which, you know, it is what it is. There's several different negatives as far as that goes, in my opinion. But, you know, when you can just grab a work sharp and, I mean, Chris, what are they running right now? Just a regular out of the box work sharp.
About $80.
About $80. You can get 2 stones. But the stones that I'm going to show you, you can get 2 stones. So you got 2 different grits there. But honestly, I'm going to get into this here later in the videos, but when you boil it down, 90% of you only need those 2 stones. Maybe say like a 1,000 and a 5,000, say, okay? 90% of you maybe only need a 1,000 grit stone. We'll get into that later. So, I mean, the price difference really isn't that much. When you get serious into this is a hobby in my opinion. You know, so if you get serious into it, it can definitely cost you a lot of money. You know, there's stones out there that are $650, but there's 30,000 grit, and I don't even use them. You know, I don't need them. Anything past an 8,000, 10,000, 12,000, that's high polishing. You know, we're going to get into that too. You know, anything past those grits, I don't need them. You know, I'm not sharpening Yagabas, you know, single edge Japanese steak knives, or not steak knives, Japanese chef knives and things like that. So, you know, and again, a lot of things that I see in sharpening in my genre, bushcraft and outdoors, things like that, is field sharpening. Because, you know, obviously when I see this stuff is people bring them to my classes and they're field sharpening, and a lot of those, in my opinion, sad to say, are like carbide sharpeners. You know, those little sharpeners that have carbide V, and you just those, in my opinion, one, they're a crutch. Okay, so that is telling you what the grind of your knife is going to be. That's telling you, all right, you're gonna have a 17 or a 25 degree grind. That's it. You know, those things take a heck of a lot of material, and if you don't know what you're doing and you go too far, you can actually see the material just coming right off of those. If you get too hard of a knife that's Rockwelled in the 65 and up, those carbide tips can actually chip the edge of those knives. You know, that's another thing that we'll be talking about later on. And in this video, you know, this is just me sitting down here talking to you. We're going to be doing some sharpening tutorials in the very next video. We're going to be showing you, in this video, we're going to be showing you guys some stones and talking about those stones and telling you what you need, what you don't need, things like that. And then we're going to move on to some tutorials and things like that. Okay, so is freehand sharpening for you? You know, like I said, you could just go and buy a work sharp, Ken Onion work sharp, or you can go buy this or that, you know, or you can get into Japanese water stones, which for my investment, what am I getting? First of all, you buy something like, let's say, let's just go back to a work sharp. You have to replace belts for that. You know, you've got to replace those a lot if you're doing a lot of sharpening. You have to, you know, those keychain sharpeners that don't really work in my opinion anyway, and God help you if you have a Scandi grind, you're not going to get them on those anyways. If you are, you're going to put a secondary bevel on it like that, and that's just blasphemy in my opinion anyway. So for my investment, a Japanese water stone like I have right here in front of me, I'm going to be showing you here in a second, you're going to get years of sharpening. If you know what you're doing, you're going to get years of sharpening out of one stone. If you don't drop and break it. There's different stones, and that kind of leads me into the next subject, is stones themselves. So, you know, when you're looking for stones, you're going to find different types of stones. You're going to find ceramic stones. You're going to find natural stones, which if you're a beginner or just getting into this, you probably want to stay away from unless you're insanely rich and just don't care about spending money, because some of the natural Japanese water stones can be outrageously priced, and that kind of turns people off immediately on freehand sharpening. You know, there's oil stones, there's water stones, there's stones that are made out of raw resin, you know, and the grits impacted in the resin. You know, there's a lot of different options. You know, so it kind of bombards people and they don't really register what's going on. They don't know what to buy. So I have a set of stones here right now that I'm going to show you. So before I move on, I definitely want to mention that this video series is made possible by good people at sharpeningsupplies.com. You know, I reached out to them and told them that my plans for this video series, and they were very receptive of that, and they went ahead and sent me out what I asked for a beginner to get into Japanese water stones, and just water stones in general, and freehand sharpening in general. But you know, for somebody that's just now starting out in this, or even, you know, professionals or people that have been doing it for quite a while, I suggest to begin with the Shapton series. The reason why, and it's not like there's not better out there, it's not like there's worse out there or anything like that. This is a good medium range to professional grade stone. It is a ceramic stone. You know, we're going to go into the feel of the stone, the reactivity of the stone, and stuff like that. But these are just really good stones, especially for beginners. In my opinion, especially for our genre, you know, a lot of carbon steel knives, stainless steel stuff. This will work for those ranges of Rockwell hardnesses. You know, like a 01 Sotheby's. We're talking about 56 to 58 on the Rockwell. Most of your CPM3V is anywhere from 58 to 60, pretty sure. You know, so 60, you're getting into kind of the more harder steels. This will sharpen those very well as well. You know, some stones this is the nitpicky side of it, you know, but some stones aren't very good for harder steels. Some of them aren't very good for lighter steels, for more softer steels and more forgiving steels. It's all about the load up, and, you know, kind of getting ahead of myself. But so when I rushed out to sharpeningsupplies.com, I told them that I wanted 4 or 5 stones in the Shapton Pro series, and they sent me out the ones that I asked for. So that's what I'm bringing you guys here today. And this is actually an 8,000 grit Shapton. I'll go ahead and open this up, show you guys the stone. Kind of a first on Mantis Outdoors, a box opening. I know you really don't do these. You know, some people like to see them, some people don't. So this is the American version of the Shaptons. You can get a Japanese version. They're the same exact stone, same exact chemical makeup, you know, abrasive makeup. The only thing is that the Japanese series has all Japanese writing. Well, the only thing that doesn't make sense to me that this is the English version, not American, but English version of the stone, and this has no English on it. So I mean, that doesn't make too much sense to me. But you know, once you open this up, this will give you some basic kind of care and stuff like that. You know, everything's in Japanese, so unless anybody knows how to read Japanese, yeah. So basic care. You know, you don't want to dry them out too fast. You don't want to soak them too long. Some stuff like that. Yada yada yada. We'll get into all that stuff here in a little bit. But there we go. Comes with this. I'm not sure what it is either, because it, again, isn't all Japanese. But here's the stone. This is an 8,000 grit. And you can really feel that texture. So this is a really nice stone. And one of the reasons why I suggest the Shapton Pro Series is because it comes with this case. Not a lot of stones do. There are some Nortons that do, you know, but you can see it does have little rubber feet on them. And you know, if you don't have a sharpening system or a setup, which we're going to be doing a video on here really soon, you can get away with like putting a towel down and putting this base down, and then putting the stone on the base. That's what it's meant for, and then you can sharpen that way. So I really am interested in seeing the polish that I'm going to get with this 8,000 grit stone. All right, guys. So this is, in my opinion, the perfect setup for a beginner. You know, this stuff isn't very expensive. You know, you're talking about maybe $50, you know, $50. You might be getting a little higher in here, and I think this is $100. So $100 for a stone. You know, people hear that and they're automatically turned off of this. But that being said, you know, this is a 320 grit. This is a 1000 grit. This is a 5000 grit, and this is an 8000 grit. For somebody just starting out, you know, it's really rough for me to kind of do this, but this, in my opinion, is a pretty complete kit. It's very modular. You can determine exactly what you want. So right away, be honest with you, this you don't need. And you know, you really honestly don't need this one either, the 320. So if you are just now getting started into this, you can go get away with, say, a 1000 and a 5000. That's going to be pretty perfect for you. You know, as long as you're not letting your knives go just extremely bad. And saying that, you're not going to be able to reprofile an edge. So buying just these two, getting you started and getting you into waterstones and freehand sharpening, and then saving up, buying this stone, this is going to allow you to do some reprofiling. It's going to allow you to fix some maybe chips, things like that. It's going to maybe allow you to fix a rounded over tip on a blade. This 320 right here. You know, you're really not going to be able to do too much reprofiling. You know, you're not going to be able to get into like maybe a secondary edge or something like that. You can, but you're going to be sitting there for a very long time. So you go even further from that into like maybe the 120s and you know, maybe a Toma plates. You know, there are aluminum plates that are diamond plates, stuff like that. Then you get into lapping and all that stuff, but we're going to be going into that later. Stone flattening and things like that. I just want to bring this stuff to you, just a basic overview of what these stones are and what they can do. So, you know, my knife is extremely dull. I'll start on a 320. It has to be really dull for me to go on here, though. Most of the time, if it's not something that I can just hone, strop out or something like that, I'll start on a 1000. You know, but really dull blades, or maybe a tiny chip or something like that, or maybe I need to do a little tiny reprofiling, change the grind angle a little bit. I'll go to start out with a 320. This is going to take a pretty fair amount of steel out, but it's not going to fix like really deep chips and, you know, things like that. That you'd have to go for maybe a 120 or a 140 or a diamond plate, something like that. We're going to be doing those in the future as well. I'll show you guys how to reprofile knives, how to fix chips, things like that. This 320 will do it. You're just going to be there for a while, a long while. Okay, so a 1000 grit. This is my bread and butter right here. The 1000 grit. You know, in you know, the Nanawas, the Saharas, the Suhiros, all of those brands and things like that. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I just spoke literally Japanese to you. But those are different companies of stones and different types of stones, and we're gonna be showing you guys, doing side-by-side comparison and showing you guys the companies that are out there and what their stones do compared to these. The reason why I got these for you guys to show you guys is this is going to be the control. This is what I'm going to stack up every other stone to. You know, if it's a 1000 grit Nanawa, I'm going to stack it up to the 1000 grit Shapton. How does it perform versus this? Because these stones, the Shapton Pro line is, in my opinion, right there, close to professional, close to as good as you can get, and not too expensive, and they're not really bad either. You know, just really right in the middle, maybe even above the middle grade, a little bit more than that. So, okay, so we discussed the 320 grit, the 1000 grit. This is my bread and butter. This is what I go to most of all. This is where I'm going to be starting out most of all. That being said, I have the backside facing you for the text and stuff like that. Always sharpen on the non-text side. After I, you know, get a bevel on one side, get a bevel on another, strop that bevel out. If I can just let it go there, strop it out on a piece of leather with maybe some compound, or I can step up to a 5000 grit and I can now start to polish. So these are working stones, like reprofiling stones. This is a sharpening stone, in my opinion. Sharpening here, and then 5,000 grit is more of a polishing. Now you're starting to polish. This is going to give you a pretty good, not like mirror finish, not mirror. It's more of a satiny finish, but it is a polish. So if I want to go even further than that, you know, my sew speeds or something like that, I'll move up to an 8,000 grit. You know, and this is 4 stones, maybe 350 bucks, something like that, and you're good to go. You're into freehand sharpening. You can do pretty much everything that you want to do, from working on damaged blades to sharpening blades to polishing blades to putting a mirror polish on a blade. And I'm going to go and I'm going to grab a knife real quick, and I'm going to show you what an 8,000 grit polish looks like. Alright guys, so these are, I got a couple blades here, and these are just some that I did for demonstration purposes. And it's kind of hard to tell in the camera angle, but see if we can't pick up a double edge. There we go. You can see that paper reflecting in the edge. Don't know exactly how well you'll be able to see that, but it is a mirror edge. And you can see the camera in the background of it. And it is a razor, just a razor. You know, a lot of people complain about paper tips, but you know, it is very, 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 very sharp, and it'll shave you, but I don't do that. This is another blade that I did because it's a different type of steel. Again, I went all the way to 8,000 grit. Pretty extreme. You don't have to do that, you know, but it does put a mirror edge on. You see me in the background there. You know, I am not versed enough in like the Ken Onion work sharps and things like that to know if you can get a mirror polish, if they do sell belts that can achieve that. I'm not sure. I've not used one. I only use those for, you know, like I said, extreme purposes where I don't want to sit for 3 hours and fix an axe. I can just come over. Chris has got a Ken Onion work sharp. Zip, zip, 2 seconds, I'm done. Alright guys, like I said, you know, I don't want to make this video 45 minutes or an hour long. You know, I just wanted to give you guys a basic overview of what freehand sharpening is, why it's beneficial for you. You know, people in the field and field sharpening, they bring these little devices and things like that. It has carbide tips in it, some ceramic tips, even ceramic rods. You know, pretty long ceramic rods, which are okay. No, in my opinion, no big deal. You know, and even the work sharp, I can't remember what that thing's called. It's like a square. It's got a strap on it. Maybe I think it's got a diamond abrasive on one side, and all these little things. That's okay. You know, it is what it is. But I mean, that thing's like this. You know, pretty big little square chunk. You can do that, but you know, freehand sharpening on these whetstones translates very easily to pocket stones that are like this, maybe 3 or 4 inches long and very, very thin. You can put 3 or 4 of those in maybe a leather pouch or make something, a duct tape container, say, and that weighs less, it takes up less room, and you have a variety of sharpening grits, you know, that you can sharpen different up to different buffs, basically, different polishes and different sharpnesses and things like that. In the field, these little tiny stones are just like that. And like I said, getting the feel for freehand sharpening on big stones translates very easily to that. So, you know, you could throw all these little sharpening gadgets that you have away, this little Smith system gadgets and all that stuff, and just get some pocket stones that are very lightweight, very packable, even in a stack of 3 or 4. You know, Arkansas stones for one. Some of those are you know, soft, which is coarse. Doesn't make very much sense. But the softer Arkansas stones are, the coarser the grit they are. So you know, they have soft, hard, and then like really hard, which is the black hard or the translucent hard and things like that. And those are so many different levels of gritness that, you know, you can start out on a knife that's pretty dull, that's duller than what you need for like maybe stropping and things like that, and then work your way up to those harder grits that are, you know, I think 1,000 or something like that, 1,500 maybe even. So you know, that's really going to put a decent polish on your knife at that point, and then you're good to go. You know, so you know that, like I said, this translates very well into that. You know, then you don't have to have all these little gadgets and all that stuff around. But okay, so this has just been a very basic introduction, showing you guys the tools that you need to get into sharpening, freehand sharpening. Like I said, all 4 of these stones, are they necessary? Not really. This is a good rounded out kit from 320 to 8,000 grit. Very nice. And I also definitely, again, would like to thank the people at sharpeningsupplies.com for providing these stones for me. And providing the things that they're going to provide in the future for future educational videos as well. But you know, I definitely want to bring these to the attention of people that I think are either scared to get into it or nervous to get into it, or just don't know the information, you know, what to buy. There's so much of this stuff out there, so many different stones and grit levels and stuff like that. You know, I really just want to sit down and do step by step. This is what this is. This is what that is. This grit level is for this. This stone is for that. And it's not that hard. It's not like, you know, it's not rocket science. It really isn't, guys. And it's fun. It's meditative. It's relaxing. And you're going to have more of a personal connection with your knife. And it sounds a little bush hippie, I know. But you're going to have a little bit more of a personal connection with your knife, sitting there doing the edge yourself, and stropping that edge out, and knowing exactly every single detail of your knife, and you're going to be more proud of that edge, in my opinion. It's my opinion, but you know. All right, guys. Well, next video we're going to show you guys how to set up a sharpening station. I'm going to show you what you need and what is best, in my opinion. Again, just my opinion. So that's the next video that's going to be coming out really soon. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Again, it's a basic tutorial into sharpening knives. We're going to be doing some sharpening tutorials. We're going to be doing some side-by-side comparisons with stones, different grit stones and different companies and things like that. This is going to be a huge series that I'm very excited to get into. Hope you guys are too. If you would, please go ahead and click subscribe or like the video down below. That helps me and my channel out a lot. Visit mantisoutdoorsllc.com/shop, shop in the Amazon store, and visit sharpeningsupplies.com. Providers of all these stones and a heck of a lot of other sharpening supplies.